everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Draft Countdown Podcast. I'm your co-host, Brian Bosarge, along as always with my co-host, Shane P. Hallam. Shane, we are 175 days, 22 hours, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds away from the 2022 NFL Draft.
There we are. Another fun week, Brian. We got to watch a ton of games and continue to get better here at, I don't know, for me, seeing some new people and going a little more in depth. So, yeah, we're getting close at the end of the college season. Not that far off.
We got 4 weeks left in the regular 4 weeks left in the regular season. Then we get championship week and then into the bowl games. So, yeah, it's it'll be over before we know it. Shane, unfortunately, we got to talk about some not great news this week with some NFL and draft implications, obviously. But Raiders' former first-round pick, Henry Ruggs III, was arrested yesterday and put in the Clark County Detention Center, charged with DUI resulting in substantial bodily harm and reckless driving resulting in death or substantial bodily harm. Ruggs hit a stopped car, killing a 23-year-old woman who has now been named as Tina Tintor. Ruggs' girlfriend, Kyra Washington, was also a passenger in the car, suffering substantial injuries. Ruggs was alleged to be driving his Corvette at 156 mile an hour in the center lane before merging into the right lane. The car braked 2 seconds before he hit the Toyota that the victim was driving. His airbags deployed at 127 miles an hour. 2 hours after the crash, while he was under arrest, they tested his blood level, and his blood alcohol level 2 hours after the crash was 0.161, which is double the legal limit of 0.08, which means he was probably above that at the time of the crash. He was also arrested for illegal possession or charged with illegal possession of a firearm. The car he hit burst into flames. Firefighters unable to rescue the victim or her pet dog that was in the car with her. The victim's car traveled nearly 200 yards after Ruggs' car made contact. Shane, this is a sad, preventable situation that should have never happened. And, I mean, there's not a whole lot more you can say about it.
Yeah, I think it is, a situation that we've seen before with NFL players, and just like, when's this lesson going to get learned? Dante Stallworth, I think, back had, not quite the same circumstance, but a DUI resulting in a death of someone else, and went to prison, and Ruggs should as well. If all this plays out and all happened, which it seems like it did. 156 miles an hour does not happen by accident. It's not just carelessness. This is, I just don't get it. I just don't understand what you're trying to accomplish by driving drunk behind the wheel when you easily could pay for someone to drive you and tow your car and put it where you need to. And it's just, that kind of flashiness just isn't going to play. That's playing with people's lives.
The sad situation that makes it even sadder is the fact the NFLPA offers a service to every single player for a free ride share. All you have to do is call this number. They come and pick you up. It's just complete dumbfounding how it's dumbfounding how it happens with regular citizens like me and you, with even in anywhere you are now, an Uber is literally 5 minutes away. And you're in Las Vegas where there's probably one Uber for every resident there. And it just blows my mind. Our thoughts go out to the family of the victim. And, in my opinion, Henry Ruggs should never play again. And he should serve the maximum amount of jail time that is allotted for this crime, if proven guilty.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens. I agree with you. It's not always how the justice system works, unfortunately. But, I think for NFL teams, for the Raiders, I don't think there was a red flag in Henry Ruggs, draft profile that could have, that could have shown this, but it continues to say you got to do your homework and you got to feel confident not only in these players' abilities, which is what you and I evaluate, but also in, these kind of preventable situations. Like, are there red flags? They're not always there. And we and the listeners and the fans don't always know if there are, red flags, character red flags. That's difficult, and what is and what isn't. But I think it's why NFL teams do look into this, much more, much harder, because you don't want, not only do you not want this player on your football team, but you don't want it to have contributed in any way to, something like this that could take someone's life.
To the Raiders' credit, they've already released Henry Ruggs. He is no longer on their team. That took place about 11 o'clock last night, probably when they got more details of the situation. They're like, it's over. But no easy transition here, Shane, to move on from that, unfortunately. But the NFL trade deadline was yesterday at about 4 p.m. And unlike the NBA and the MLB trade deadlines, the NFL trade deadline usually sucks. But we did have a couple of trades yesterday to talk about. The big one, of course, Broncos pass rusher Von Miller traded to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for a second and third round draft pick in the 2022 NFL draft. The Broncos were able to get the high draft picks from the Rams basically because they're eating the contract that's left over. Miller's basically a rental for like the rest of the season. He's a free agent after the year. But they basically bought these second, third round draft picks by eating $9 million roughly in cash.
It's a big deal. The Rams don't have a pick until the 5th round of 2022 draft now. I think they're 4th rounders with the Texans. And, that's kind of been their MO at this point, is to trade picks. I don't think they've made a 1st round pick since they drafted Jared Goff in the 1st round, number 1 overall. So it's as draft guys, I'm like, oh, that doesn't seem like a good idea. But the window is small. You traded for Matthew Stafford. They are one of the best teams in the NFL, and now you can get a pass rusher who really wasn't. It was kind of misplaced in this new Broncos defense. Now going to the Rams for a position that they desperately needed. I mean, I don't mind the trade for them. I think in 3 or 4 years, we're going to look at the Rams roster and things aren't going to look so pretty. But
they're going to basically be the Houston Texans that we see on the field this year in a few years, I believe. Just basically a bunch of one-year veterans, veteran minimum contracts, undrafted free agents everywhere. That's kind of the path they're headed for. But by God, they might win a title out of it, and that'll be okay. They are projected to get like a 3rd or a 4th round comp pick this year. So they may have one day 2 pick maybe when it's all said and done. Before we move on to the other couple of minor trades, you tweeted out a story about Von Miller from the 2011 Senior Bowl that you and Scott Wright had. Tell us about that story, your Von Miller story.
It's an interview I'll never forget. Yeah, he was one of the highest profile players down there. You knew he was going to go really high in the draft. So he's one of the highest players of the game. So Scott and I got the chance to interview him. And one of the questions that we asked every prospect, just kind of break the ice, was, what they would do after football or instead of football. And Von Miller had an absolute unique answer that after football, he was going to become a chicken farmer. And I mean, he was like passionate about it. He was serious. It wasn't a joke. Like he started talking about his training and farming chickens and at down there in Texas, and how he has chickens and he's raised them and something that he loves and wants to do after he's done playing football. And he kept going on about these chickens, and I'm from suburban Pittsburgh, and I'm like, I don't know anything about chickens, but thanks, man. So it was he was a unique cat. He was really fun to talk to, but that was something no one else is ever going to answer that in the history of the Senior Bowl, I would imagine.
Well, the A in Texas A&M does stand for agricultural, so
there you go.
There you go. That's good stuff. A couple other trades. Your Pittsburgh Steelers pick up an extra 6th-round pick this year for a guy they just signed out of the, basically to a 1-year minimum deal. Is Melvin Ingram, the former Gamecock, former Charger. He's going to Kansas City for a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, he wanted out because Alex Highsmith, the second-day pick the Steelers had last year, kind of broke out. So Ingram really hasn't been used. He wanted traded, and the Steelers are lacking in picks this year. They traded one in last year's draft. They traded a couple. So I think it's a good – it makes it fun for me now to mock for them an extra pick.
San Francisco acquired former Texas edge rusher Charles Omenihu. The Texans get a 2023 6th-round pick. Not a whole lot there. 7th-round pick in this year's draft, corner Kerry Vincent from LSU goes to the Eagles by way of the Denver Broncos. The Broncos get a 2022 6th-round pick. So that was basically the highlights of the NFL trade deadline. Oof. Like I said, no blockbuster deals here. Well, I mean, I guess the Von Miller deal was a pretty big deal, but that was about it. So, Shane, let's move on to what we saw in week 9 of the college football season. And it's pretty easy for me this week. Running backs were the standouts for me. And one of those was for the undefeated Michigan State Spartans. And, man, starting to get some Heisman love here. Kenneth Walker III, 190 plus yards rushing, 5 touchdowns against the Michigan Wolverines, and their 37-33 come from behind win on Saturday.
He's a monster, man. I mean, I still have a couple questions just about that overall athletic ability and testing ability, but what those numbers will be. But I mean, he's a great vision, great explosiveness. I mean, he's carrying that offense for sure. So I'm excited to see what he does the rest of the season.
I've moved him to RB1 in my rankings after this week. Moved him ahead of Isaiah Spiller, who had been there for the bulk of this season, ahead of Breece Hall. I'm not saying he's going to conclude this process at RB1, but he's there right now. Who was a big standout for you this week, Shane?
Well, I got to watch a tight game between my Ohio State Buckeyes, the Penn State Nittany Lions, and had a couple Nittany Lions that contended for my stock up list. But probably the best performance was from Arnold Abecady, the edge rusher from Penn State. He was super impressive. He went up against Nicholas Petit-Frere, the left tackle for Ohio State, who, I think both of us have mocked in the first round at some point in this process. Really good athlete. And, Abecady just dominated him throughout the game, was getting pressure, was kind of moving him around. That they couldn't rush on that left side, which has Petit-Frere and Thayer Munford, 2 NFL prospects, probably top 100 picks. And they couldn't do anything. Even the stunts inside against Munford, he looked good. I think Abecady's going to be a good, probably third day pick. If he tests well, maybe second day, and he can play the run. He was really disciplined in his gaps and has kind of a really nice low bull rush that was difficult to stop. So I was impressed with him and have been. I mean, that Penn State defense itself just has. I mean, they probably have 9 NFL guys. And it's it's an NFL defense there. So if your team ends up with some of them, I think you'll be happy.
I had Abecady on my up list last week when I watched Penn State. So he's definitely a rising player on both of our boards after the last couple of weeks. My other guy that stood out to me this week, Shane, and he's one of your guys, BYU running back Tyler Allgeier, 200-plus yards rushing, another 5 touchdown back this week. Allgeier's he's the total package here, isn't he? And he's not really getting a whole lot of national love. You don't really see a whole lot of him outside of Draft Countdown here, where people are talking Allgaier as a top 60 pick potentially, and I moved him up to RB4 this week after his performance against Virginia. He can run, he can block, he can catch, and he's got good vision. I'm with Allgaier here. I could see him maybe even moving up higher than 4 on my final board when it's all said and done. Dependent testing, always depending on that. But Allgaier, a huge game against the Cavaliers Saturday night.
I've been a fan since I got a chance to watch him last year when I was scouting Zach Wilson. I was like, who's this running back, man? I love when that happens when you're scouting players and you see someone else and you're like, wow, that guy looks good. And then you watch more and you're like, oh, yeah, he's legit NFL running back. This running back class is going to be really interesting because I think you have a lot of players in that kind of mix. I've got Allgaier as my RB6, but I could have him at 4. I'd be fine with that. Kyron Williams from Notre Dame had a really one of the most amazing runs I've ever seen in my life. And Brian Robinson from Alabama has been consistently good. There's just a lot of Zach Charbonnet from UCLA. There's just a lot of running backs that aren't elite. They're not first round picks, but you pick your taste, and you can end up with a starter here. I think in day 2, we're going to see a lot of them go off the board.
I think so too. Shane, who was another guy that popped off the tape for you this week?
A player that we kind of mentioned last week, and we formally now put on the list is Sam Hartman, the quarterback for Wake Forest, a 4-year redshirt sophomore, which feels weird to say, but he's leading the undefeated Demon Deacons here, and they went up against Duke, which is not a hard defense to play, so I'm not going to pretend like it is. But Sam Hartman definitely flashed for me some NFL potential there. Was fairly efficient, over 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He ran in for 2 more. He has good athletic ability, a really good feel for the pocket. I liked, there are times that he kind of stayed in and stepped up, times that he rolled out and kept his eyes downfield. There's a lot of traits that he has. Not the biggest arm in the world, maybe not the best downfield accurate passer. I have some questions there, but he's popped on our list and right up into my top 15 quarterbacks for this class. I don't know if he declares. A lot might depend on what Wake Forest does for the rest of the season, but they're undefeated and in the driver's seat in the ACC. Yeah,
he's they're on. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but they're on my watch list or games this week. So anxious to officially put the scouting eye on Hartman this week. So Shane, this is our last in-season trip through our position rankings board here. We've gone through every position that matters anyway. Sorry, special teams guys. But we've gone through every position that we're going to do here. And we conclude with the safeties this week. And Shane, as I was compiling this list, this is not unlike it was a few weeks ago where we don't have a whole lot of difference here. So we'll start at the top. And both of us should be the surprise of no one who follows college football and follows the NFL draft. Notre Dame safety Kyle Hamilton, potential top 5 pick, is the top safety in this class. That's not going to change barring injury.
Which he is injured right now. so
barring major injury.
Right. I was like, well, he doesn't have to play another game or another snap, I think, to be a top 10 pick in the draft. And it looks like he's planning on coming back. But it's a knee injury, nothing major. I mean, Hamilton just has such range to him that is exceptional. The plays that he makes and his ability to not only, cover, he can man up tight ends. He has that athletic ability, but Notre Dame's used him a lot just as kind of a cover 2, deep, deep kind of 2-man under player. And I mean, that's where he excels. He's really good at reading the offense, know when to come up in the run game. And this comparison might sound crazy, but I think as a prospect, I've compared him to Sean Taylor. I think he has that kind of ability as, a big, rangy, athletic safety who can do whatever you want and really command the offense to know where he is at all times.
The play that sticks in my head is, I believe it was against Florida State in the first game of the season, where he came from all the way across the field and intercepts the ball on the sideline. Just unbelievable. We also have the same safety at number 2, and it's Alabama's Jordan Battle. Battle is he's basically, he's not as rangy as Hamilton, but he's a big hitter. You like that, and he can cover. So, I mean, number 2 here. I mean, I think we both took turns mocking him in the first round. We actually have a question that we'll answer later that pertains to this. But Jordan Battle are both of our number 2 safeties. Is he number 2 because there's not a whole lot of options here that we're going to get to that we like greatly, or is he number 2 deservingly?
I think he's in the mix. Like, I've considered having him as obviously as high as 2. I almost made the move before we compiled this to move him down to 4. Like, I think these next 3 for me at least are pretty close, because I think Battle is, like you said, he's not the athletic big time coverage safety, but in the box with the. I think he has the football IQ to make plays and read the quarterback's eyes. You go back to the Mississippi State game where, that's what he was that's what he did. He played kind of center field and read Will Rogers and made 2 interceptions. He can do that. So I think there's certain offenses he'll fit, certain ones that he won't. I think testing is going to be really big. If he tests really well, then I think he's a potential first-round pick. I think if he doesn't, you could even see him fall to the 4th round.
There you have it. Jordan Battle, our number 2 safety, but we're not convinced. Number 3 safety, I got to look at him for the, in depth for the first time this week and moved him all the way up to number 3. You've been harping on him all season long. Daxton Hill from Michigan. He gets downhill in a hurry.
Yeah, he just has such explosiveness. I feel more confident in him than Battle to say, like, oh, he's going to test well. He's going to have that athletic, at least the agility and that explosive movement. So he's done really well against the run. He hasn't exactly made big plays, but they're kind of putting him in a little better position, I think, later in the season to maybe make some of those plays. He has 2 interceptions in the last 4 games. And he's obviously not as big as Kyle Hamilton or anything close to that, but he has that kind of range too. So Daxton Hill, I think, might take a little bit to get going in the NFL, but I think he has NFL athletic talent.
I'm with you on that. Like I said, his instincts are great, and he attacks in a hurry when he makes his decision. So I appreciate that. Our number 4s are different here. I'll start with mine because he's also your number 5. And he came into this season with a lot of hype. It's Brandon Joseph, the safety from Northwestern. I have him at 4 because for if no other reason, I don't really feel that confident in having anybody else above him. I haven't seen anything from Joseph to make me – I mean, he was projected by some in the first round before the season. That has gone away. But Joseph, to me, he's a good, not great prospect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's that kind of safety who gets drafted, maybe 3rd, 4th round, and starts, rotates, has some stats, like maybe as a starter when their injuries hit and he's getting a lot of tackles, and you're like, oh, he's decent. He's not going to lose. He's not going to lose you a game. He's not going to be cut out of position too much. But yeah, I just don't know if he has that full package to be a first round, kind of talent. But they've used him in a lot of different ways. I mean, he is that defense. Like, they're blitzing him something. They're trying to drop him back and get him to make big plays. Like, he's trying to do everything. So it could be kind of a product of Northwestern's defense not being as good as it was last year as a whole. Maybe he's trying to do too much. But yeah, so I think 5 for me where I feel good about.
He's also listed as a redshirt sophomore, so he may just return to school, and we'll reevaluate him again next season for the 2023 draft. So that possibility is certainly there. Your number 4 is my number 7 safety, Jaquan Brisker from Penn State. You got to look at the Penn State defense against Ohio State this week. What's Brisker do for you there to get to number 4?
If anyone watched that game, then you know why Brisker deserves to be at the spot. I mean, he ran down Travion Henderson like he was nothing. A 4.3 freshman running back who's going to be the top running back in 2 years. Like, just ran him down, took him out when it should have been a touchdown. And Penn State ended up holding Ohio State to, I think, no points in that drive, thanks to Brisker. Like, man, I mean, he just has such good instincts. He obviously can move faster than I think he can. And, if that times out in workouts, I think he's going to be up there in this draft. Like, he's that kind of, we always have a couple safeties that are seniors that don't get much hype. And then like a month before the draft, it's like, oh, well, Darnell Savage can go in the first round, right? Like, we start to get like these names, right, that start to pop. I think Jaquan Brisker is that kind of player, just tough. I think he has that NFL mentality. And if the workouts match up, I mean, I think he could be a full package safety.
I mean, Terrell Edmonds goes in the first round, Shane.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was there wasn't even hype for that one. Just reached for that.
Brisker actually had accepted an invite to the Senior Bowl a year ago, then opted to go back to school when everybody was given the chance. I would expect that his name is probably on the top of their list again to come back to Mobile this year. My number 5 safety is a player that I have written about probably more than any other player in any of my weekly recap columns this year. And it's South Carolina safety Jaylen Foster. I just can't get over the production. He leads the nation in interceptions. He's forced multiple fumbles. He's been probably the leading tackler for the Gamecocks all season. He has probably a 25% or 20% market share on solo tackles. I mean, Foster's been amazing for the Gamecocks this year. Between him and Enigbari, it's been basically the only two people worth talking about on their entire team for the most part. He's a 6th-year senior, so that's obviously age is going to downgrade him just a little bit. But he's a former walk-on. He's had to earn everything he's had, and this is his first year as a starter, and it makes you wonder why he was – the previous coaching staff didn't get him in there more the way he's playing, especially with all the injuries they had a year ago in the secondary. So maybe he wasn't ready. I don't know. Or maybe Will Muschamp was an idiot. But Jaylen Foster can play. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a day one starter in the NFL. I don't know that he'll be a top 100 pick unless he gets invited to the Senior Bowl and just balls out down there. And then has a great combine. But I think he's going to be a core special team guy from day one. He's going to go probably in that round 4 to 5 area, all things considered. And I love the way Jaylen Foster plays the game and everything about him.
I think he's been a really good college player this year. I mean, the 2 interceptions against Georgia can't hurt. I think small and slow does not go far in your draft capital, and I think that's Jaylen Foster in a nutshell, unfortunately.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. For those wondering at home, Shane currently has Jaylen Foster number 75 in his safety rankings.
I'll move them up for you.
There is a slight difference in between.
I'll put them at 28. I'm gonna put them at 28, and we'll settle it there. I think that's fair.
There we go. I bullied Shane into moving Jaylen Foster up his rankings this week, so that's gonna do it for our safety rankings this week. Like I said, not a whole lot of difference there, but we'll have to fill in some time next week. Shane, we'll have to come up with a new segment here to talk about. 17 games on our schedule this week with an asterisk, we should say, because 4 of those games that we're watching this week took place. 2 of them took place last night. 2 of them are taking place tonight. So we'll quickly skip through the ones that are basically either have already taken place or are taking place right now. Last night you watched Ball State and Akron. I watched Miami of Ohio and Ohio, and that was a win for the Bobcats. Currently, right now, Central Michigan leading Western Michigan 28-24. That game's on ESPNU. And I'm watching Northern Illinois and Kent State tonight. That game currently being played on ESPN2 with Kent State was ahead by double digits, 38-27 lead for the Golden Flashes, wearing those sweet Charger knockoff uniforms there that they got. So let's get into the 13 remaining games that are going on for us this week. And we'll start with you, Shane, tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. on ESPN. Sunbelt battle here, Georgia State and Louisiana. One of the players that was on our watch list I took off prior to putting this up, Cornelius Brown, the quarterback of Georgia State. We had him on our watch list. He's in the transfer portal, no longer a member of their team. But lots to like with the Cajuns here.
Yeah, the Cajuns just a good defense, good on the offensive line. We talked about them a couple times. Max Mitchell, the offensive tackle. I like Osiris Torrance, their guard. He's an underclassman. And then, along the defensive front, Taylon Humphrey, defensive lineman for the Raging Cajuns, is pretty good. Johnny Lumpkin, their tight end, is a good blocker. So I want to get another look at some of these players. I think they'll be late round picks at best. I even have a sneaky love for Levi Lewis, the Louisiana quarterback. I hope he gets into a camp at some point. Would be fun.
Going to be damn fine in the Canadian Football League, that Levi Lewis is.
He
will not. I don't think he'll play in the NFL. Friday night for you, Shane, is 6:30 p.m. on ESPN2. Virginia Tech at Boston College. There's a lot to like in this game, and we talked last week when talking about our interior offensive line. Alec Lindstrom, Zion Johnson from Boston College. There's some big guys that we both like.
Yeah, I mean they're both potential top 100 picks. I really like Zay Flowers, the receiver for Boston College, and he's been kind of injured and on and off the field. And obviously Phil Jurgovic's out for the season, their quarterback. I mean, Boston College is probably the team I'm more excited to watch because I haven't watched them as much. Jaden Lars would be their safety as well as decent and a big hitter. But I've watched Virginia Tech a couple times. They definitely have some talent on that defensive side. Amari Barno, the edge rusher, has probably been one of my biggest risers through this season. He's approaching, early day 3 territory for me. And Dax Hollifield hasn't been, but he probably has the resume to be drafted. So I think there's definitely some draftable players here and a couple top 100 guys potentially.
Trey Turner, their receiver, been starting to pick up some buzz here in the last few weeks from what I've gathered. So Saturday, let's move to Saturday now. Another game for you, Shane, 11 a.m. on Fox Sports 1, Kansas State at Kansas.
Yeah.
This is just to get them on the books, right?
Yeah, it's not too much for this draft, but Kansas put up a fight against Oklahoma. I think there maybe there's some other prospects here. I just kind of want to see if there's anyone else that jumps out. Noah Johnson, the guard for Kansas State, probably the best player in this game. I don't know if there's anyone else that gets drafted. So, you got to watch everybody. And I really haven't watched in depth either of these teams yet this year. So,
Kyra Johnson, the linebacker for Kansas, he stood out a little bit to me when I watched them earlier in the season. I stole this game from you, Shane. I know you wanted it, but I kind of took it from you. 11 a.m. on the SEC Network. I, along with every NFL team that needs a quarterback in this draft class, will be watching Liberty at Mississippi. This is Malik Willis, hopefully against Matt Corral. Hopefully the horse tranquilizer he got shot in his ankle last week doesn't wear off, and he's able to play this week allegedly. We don't speculate on what goes on in the blue medical tent there, but that's what the hope is, right? Malik Willis, and see what Malik Willis can do against a reasonable facsimile of an SEC defense and Matt Corral.
And Sam Williams, the edge rusher for Mississippi, 2 sacks in this game. Sacks Malik Willis twice. That's my prediction.
I can see it because Malik Willis makes some bad pocket decisions there, which is why I'm lower on him than the mainstream appears to be. But we'll see how he does this week. I'm anxious to see it. And hey, look, I get another quarterback game here, 11 a.m. on ABC. Non-conference game, as we talked about today, Shane. Wake Forest at North Carolina, despite being both members of the ACC. This is a non-conference game because the ACC scheduling is stupid. Sam Howell, the quarterback from North Carolina, got to be more consistent, man. I mean, that is his bugaboo in this draft process, is his consistency. He's not he's just not putting it together week to week like you would hope a top NFL draft prospect would. Still think he's a first round possibility, but we need to see more. Sam Hartman, you brought up last week. We've added him to the watch list now. He's officially all eyeballs on him. Jakari Roberson, their receiver, is a big target for him. And I've gone on and on about how big a fan I am of their left tackle, Zach Tom. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this battle goes.
It should be a fun game. Ultimately, I'm picking Wake. I think Wake Forest is going to win this one on the road, non-conference, which blows my mind. I can't get over that. I think it's so dumb.
Non-conference road win. So let me try to explain, because
I hate it.
Straight up, and I told him, all right, the ACC plays an 8-game conference schedule. They model I believe their schedule is modeled similar to the way the SEC does it, which is also stupid. And so basically, you play your 6 interdivision games, which for some reason 2 teams that are separated by about 30 miles are in separate divisions in the ACC. And so you basically only play these teams once every 6 years in the other division. So they schedule each other as non-conference games so their rivalry can play each other. Like I use the example, South Carolina has not played a game in Tuscaloosa. Not that I want them to play against Alabama ever, because it's a loss. But they haven't played in Tuscaloosa since 2009. They haven't played in Auburn since 2010. So it is what it is. So that's why they have the non-conference game between Wake Forest and North Carolina, so they can actually play more than once every 6 years.
No. Don't play. Sorry, you don't get to play. Like, it either counts or it doesn't.
Just scrap divisions. Every conference should scrap divisions once we go to the new. Once the playoff expands to 12, just burn them down.
Then you can get caught in, like, you're playing literally the 7 garbage teams in your conference, and it's tough.
Speaking of tough, the Yale at Brown this week, 11 a.m. It's on Nesson if you're a DirecTV sports package subscriber like myself, ESPN Plus for everybody else. Tough when I say is EJ Perry, because he's basically has to carry the rest of the Bears on his back. What will probably be a losing effort this week against Yale, but you always want to. I wanted to get at least one more game in of EJ Perry. I'm going to cap it at 2 regular season games, and then I'm going to, wait to see him in an all-star game, and then I'll go with my final grade off of that. But EJ Perry is the one and only prospect in this game that I'm looking forward to seeing here, Shane.
That's fair. I like him. I don't know where he's going to end up, but I think he ends up in a camp at the very least.
I believe that will also be the case. Speaking of oddball games that popped up on our schedule this week, 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus, Shane, Louisiana Monroe at Texas State. Go.
Look, I want to watch a little Texas State. I've heard some good things about their guard, Liam Dobson, so I want to watch him. And I figured, why not do it this week when Brian took a lot of all these quarterback battles, so he's got to hear about me. So I'm gonna make him talk about Texas State next week.
2:30 on Fox. Baylor at TCU. This game took on a whole different meaning this week when longtime TCU coach Gary Patterson was basically forced out. TCU hasn't been up to the levels that they were used to the last few years, so you can kind of see it coming. But a lot to like here, or is it, Shane? Jaylen Petrie, you were down on him this week, man, and woo, buddy, did you hear about it on the Twitter machine?
Yeah, people weren't happy with me. The Baylor fans, a lot of NFL draft passion that I would not expect. But yeah, Petrie's on my stock down despite he had one great play. And if that's all you needed to make it in the NFL, then he would have been on the stock up. But he got picked on in that game against Texas and was a big reason they were down so much. So maybe he can get it back. I mean, I'm happy to put him in the stock up list this week. TCU also some good guys in the secondary, good corners, Noah Daniels, Travis Hodge-Tomlinson. And O'Shawn Mathis, their edge rusher, I like a lot. So I think it's going to be a good, even game. Gary Patterson firing, I don't get it.
Best prospect in this game for my money is TCU offensive tackle Abina Easy. If I was to pick one guy out of this game that's going to be the highest impact NFL player, that's who I would go with. 3 p.m. on the ACC network. Got caught. We both kind of got called on the carpet today for ignoring the NC State quarterback. But we're still haven't added him to our watch list. Maybe we do next week if he performs wildly against Florida State. Probably the top prospect in this game, I would say, is going to be Florida State edge rusher Jermaine Johnson II. The Georgia transfer, I think, has a chance to go in that second to upper third round range. I like their former Gamecock nickelback Jamie Robinson has really emerged this year as one of the better defenders in the secondary in the nation. But Iko Mekwonu, I'm sorry. Let me go back to that.
Yeah,
Iko Mekwonu is the best prospect in this game.
There you go.
But Jermaine Johnson is second.
Yeah, hopefully we get to see them. You get to see a matchup, and this game be fun. And the running backs for NC State, Zonovan Knight, has a shot to declare. He's had a good season, so. Yeah, you have to watch a little Devin Leary and see if NC State's redshirt sophomore, another 4-year redshirt sophomore. That's why he's not on the list. If he's worthy enough.
We shall see. You were waiting to call me out on that, weren't you, Shane? Until I called it. I can see it in your eyes.
No, never.
6 p.m. on the Pac-12 network. Oregon State at Colorado. I like Nate Landman, the linebacker for Colorado. I think he's the only draftable prospect on their team. Who sticks out to you from for the Beavers here?
Not a ton this year. They're not a great team. Nathan Eldridge, their center, I think will maybe late round draftable. Probably ends up as an undrafted free agent somewhere around there. So he's interesting. The Oregon State tight ends are good. Like, I don't think either of them come out, but I think they're good too. Oregon State, not a good team this year as a whole.
Luke Musgrave stuck out to me last year when I watched him a couple of times when I was watching Jamar Jefferson, their running back that was a 7th round pick this year.
Scored a touchdown this week then.
He is on his way. Bad 40 time sunk the draft stock of Jamar Jefferson. But Luke Musgrave, I'm a fan of his. 6:30 p.m. on ABC. Could be the matchup of the week here, Shane, as far as one-on-one battles. Kayvon Thibodeau, the number one prospect in this class. That's not – we can chisel that into the tablet. number one prospect in his class is Kayvon Thibodeau. This is prove it deal, right, for Jackson Kirkland, who's kind of been up and down this season. So let's see him against Thibodeau one-on-one and see how this goes.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see how he does and if he can hold up. If he has a good game, I mean, that could be a statement game for Kirkland to get back into that top 100 discussion, to me, that he's kind of fallen out of this season.
I'm also want to get another look at Oregon center Alex Forsyth. I was a big fan when I watched them earlier this season, so I want to get another look at him. First look of the season for the UTSA Roadrunners, 8-0, undefeated. Meep, Shane, and there's some talent on this team. Multiple times this season, Senior Bowl Director Jim Nagy has commented on UTSA offensive tackle Spencer Burford, 6'5", 300. So I definitely want to get a look at him. I know you have talked off camera here about the UTEP edge rusher Praise Amawule. So see if they can hook up Sincere McCormick, the running back for UTSA, highly talented as well.
Yeah, not having as good a season as he did last year, but he's going to carry that rock. And both teams have good young receivers too that I think have NFL talent. Sakari Franklin for UTSA and Jacob Cowing for UTEP. So look for a lot of offense in this one. I think it's going to be a fun game, and I might be making my lock on this game later in this episode.
I like it. Is there anything to Frank Harris, their quarterback?
No.
Okay.
Not to me, at least.
For the 7th time this season, Shane will be watching the Southern Cal Trojans against Arizona State. This time, Jaden Daniels, this is a guy that we want to see break out, and it just doesn't seem to happen. I've liked the running back Rashad White. I've talked about him. Kellen Dice, their offensive tackle, is a stud. Potential top 100 player there as well. But we can't talk anymore about this without talking about Drake London, the wide receiver, Southern Cal. Fractured his ankle. He'll miss the rest of the season. Obviously, was on pace to break a record-breaking season he was on pace for, but that has now come to an end. Depending on how well he recovers from his surgery, he could be able to work out before the draft. We assume that he'll enter the draft if that is the case. So, but yeah, it sucks. No more Drake London this year for the Trojans. But what are you looking forward to in this game, Shane?
That is tough. I think Arizona State just has a lot of talent. Donovan West, their center, is one of my top centers in this draft. We definitely like some of their defensive players, Merlin Robertson and Jermaine Lowell. So Arizona State has a lot of talent. I just keep picking USC because I'm going to watch some games Saturday night, and
it's either them or Hawaii.
Right? It's like I watch Hawaii enough, and I'd much rather watch Southern Cal, especially against Arizona State. So and it seems like Jackson Dart, the freshman quarterback, now is starting over Keaton Slovis for Southern Cal. So that whole offense is going to be different.
Keaton Slovis, Spencer Rattler coming to the transfer portal near you in this offseason, it appears. Either one of these wide receivers we have on our watch list, can they take up any of the slack of Drake London, or is this just going to be a black hole for their offense now?
Now, Brew McCoy's, I don't know what, he had the legal issues, so I don't think he's playing. And then, Kyle Ford's one of those guys that never lived up to the opportunity. So it's going to be interesting. They actually have a lot of younger guys, freshmen, true sophomores, Gary Bryant, et cetera, who I think will pick up some of that slack. But no, they don't have the offensive firepower. I actually think they could lose this game.
Fair enough. Well, that's going to wrap up our Week 10 preview. Let's let's remind everybody right now, if we've got a couple of questions in the chat, we've got 2 on Twitter, but if you're listening right now, want to get that question in for the end of the episode, go ahead and hop on in there in the live chat here or at Draft Countdown on Twitter, and we'll answer it at the end of the episode. Shane, you've now taken a commanding 2-game lead here in our lock of the week for college football picks. I'm going to try to get back at it this week, and I know there's one guy listening that's probably going to be upset with my lock of the week pick here, but sorry, going with the North Texas Mean Green here, -4.5 on the road at Southern Miss. That's just not a good football team, Shane. I think North Texas wins this one by a touchdown, at least.
That's fair. I'm always scared to take those, go against those home dogs, but hey, that's the Mean Green. It's still one of my favorite nicknames, I think, in sports.
Who you got this week, Shane? You kind of teased it.
I teased it, but I am not going with the undefeated Roadrunners. I'm going the other way. I think UTEP +11 keeps it. I think they keep it within. I think it's up to 11.5. I just bet it before this show. 11.5 is what I got them at. I'm a little upset though because my game, what I would have picked, the game already happened last night. I bet I have the receipts, but I bet on Eastern Michigan +9.5. They ended up winning outright in that game. So I was a little mad. I couldn't use that for my lock, but wow. UTEP's going to keep it 7 point. They lose by 7 and cover.
11.5 point home dogs for a team with only 2 losses, but granted they haven't really played.
I think they've covered in every game except one this year. So UTEP's.
We'll see. Meet Roadrunners there, undefeated. 8-0. They're going to stay undefeated, but maybe Shane's. They don't have to win by 12 to stay undefeated.
Yeah, I almost picked Michigan State again. I almost went back to back after last week calling that upset. They're only like 2.5 point favorites against Purdue. It seems I don't know. It seems a little trappy, but I feel like they're going to win that game.
You would think so, and if they win, you have to feel like they're going to win by at least 3.
At least a field goal, yeah. So,
all right, let's get to some of these questions we've received here. I told you we'd have a discourager here with the anti-Southern Miss.
Dwayne, he's excited.
Yeah. Let's go to the Twitter questions first. Since we talked about safeties already, we can I think we can hammer this question pretty quick. At Williams66 NFL asked, how many safeties in this class do you think will go in the first round or even top 50? I can only really guarantee you one right now as Kyle Hamilton, definitely in the first round. We'll probably see at least one more get in that top 50 range, but I think Kyle Hamilton's definitely the only lock.
I agree with that. I think we could get to 4. I think we could see Hamilton, Battle Hill, and Brisker. To me, I think those guys could make it. But yeah, 3 is probably a safe number for the top 50.
At DCM Rules RULZ ask, outside of Willis, McCall, and Ritter, which group of 5 FCS quarterbacks look like first round talents in this or next year's class? Asking for a Kirk Cousins replacement. Well, I mean, this seems like an easy answer as Carson Strong of Nevada, as far as this year goes, as potential first-round quarterbacks. That, I mean, he's definitely got the arm talent that the NFL wants. It's the athleticism that we've always questioned, but that feels like the easy answer for me is Carson Strong. If there's beyond this year, I'll leave that to you, Shane.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's not another first-round talent this year. I mean, I guess Bailey Zappi is probably the next guy that hasn't been mentioned, but he's probably a late-round pick. Maybe Tanner Mordecai. But next year, I mean, usually these smaller school quarterbacks don't emerge till late. I would say my top guy at 10 right now is Michael Pratt, the Tulane quarterback, who's had a good season. Matched up against some big-time defenses. So I like him. And honestly, my next highest one is Cincinnati's backup, is Evan Prater. the quarterback who's going to replace Desmond Ridder next year, I think has some really good talent. So, that might be the way that we're looking. Not too much at this point next year yet, but those guys usually emerge in their last season.
We assume that McCall will be in next year's class. I think that's been both of our assumptions here. Maybe not at Coastal Carolina, but as a potential maybe into next year's. Maybe at Nebraska, Shane.
Ugh.
I mean, Jamie Chadwell taking his option offense to Nebraska and bringing McCall with him. Just maybe.
Please no.
We'll see. Maybe not. Let's get to Dwayne had a question here in chat. What's going to happen to Conference USA? Dwayne, I'm going to tell you, if you want to know what's going to happen to Conference USA, you're going to have to go to Draft Countdown on Friday, where I've got a whole conference college football realignment column going up on Friday. So stay tuned for that. Sorry to delay your answer there, but hey, we got to get them clicks. Guy asked in the chat, are Abecady and he says Barron here, but then comes back and says Barno. Are Abecady and Barno 34 outside linebackers in the NFL?
I think so. I think both of them have some versatility. I think Amari Barno, Virginia Tech, is an ideal 3-4 backer. I think that's probably where he will play the best. Nowadays teams are using hybrids. You kind of need to do both anyway. And I think Abecady can. I kind of prefer him with his hand in the dirt, but I think he has enough of a bend that he could play in a 3-4 backer role. Me being in Pittsburgh, I really look at that defense usually when I'm evaluating 3-4 outside linebackers. It's one of the few pure 3-4 defenses still left. I think both those guys could play in that defense.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't mind Abecady as a hand in the dirt 43 defensive end either, but I think you're probably there with that. Thanks for that, Dwayne. Glad to have you as a listener each and every week. You've been a loyal supporter of the show. So that's going to do it, Shane, for the Twitter questions and the chat questions. Final thoughts on everything that's going on in the world of draft this week and maybe what you got coming up here.
Yeah, I'm excited for this weekend. I think there's going to be some solid games. So my article tomorrow is going over who I would pick to win the Heisman this year, and it's a guy that's not going to get a single vote, and you've heard of him. So I'm excited for that to come out and let the hate flow through all the readers. So can't wait.
Speaking of hate flowing through all the readers, we had our first contribution from our satellite writer here, Joel Kipper, today, and his midseason all-rookie team. Woo! Did we get some flack on that from the Chiefs Kingdom there, and rightfully so, if we're going to be honest, with the omissions of Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith off the all-rookie team. But hey, we don't purport anybody here to write anything their opinion here on the draft countdown. So, but it doesn't mean we have to agree with it there, Shane. But yeah, if you haven't seen that, check that out at draftcountdown.com, the midseason 2021 all-rookie team. Some names you would expect there, and there's some names you don't see that are not there as well.
Look, the Creed Humphrey omission. I'm not a big PFF guy, but Creed Humphrey's the best rated center in the league for them. Not rookie, in the league. And leaving off my man Nate Hobbs as the nickelback is sad. I mean, balling out in Vegas.
Yeah. We talked about it last week because Trey Smith is one of the PFF's highest rated guards as well. And I had them ranked as the 14th and 16th overall players in last year's class. So, hey, good one for the Deep Fried Draft brand, if nothing else, their performance as rookies this season. But, yeah. Shane, that's going to do it for tonight's edition of the Draft Countdown podcast. As always, Like us on here on YouTube. If you're watching, click that subscribe button, hit the ring bell there for get notified when we go live. We go live every week, 9 Eastern, 8 Central here on YouTube and live on Twitter and Facebook. Go to Facebook, like us on there at Draft Countdown on Facebook. Subscribe to us on Twitter at Draft Countdown. Subscribe to me at Deep Fried Draft. Shane at Shane P. Hallam. And you'll see us constantly. We'll interact. You have a question about the draft, just at me or Shane, and we will answer your question to the best of our abilities. I promise you that. We appreciate each and everybody who continues to check out everything on a daily basis. Shane, you had a 2023 mock draft update come out this week for everybody who is already looking forward to the draft. After this draft, they can get caught up on that. We're consistently updating our position rankings as well. So check those out on the site. You can get them at the headers there. And but great content every day, every single day. You get new content here at Draft Countdown. So we're mighty proud of that. So for Shane P. Hallam, I'm Brian Bosarge. Thanks everybody for listening. Until next time.